When you think of the great flying aces of World War I, there's really only one name that immediately comes to mind: Manfred von Richthofen. You probably know him as the Red Baron. He was a hero in Germany, a legend to his enemies, the undisputed ace of aces. But behind that incredible record of 80 victories, there's this one huge enduring mystery, and it all comes down to his very last flight.
So, who really shot him down? It's a question people have been arguing about for over a century now. On April 21st, 1918, the most famous pilot on the planet was shot out of the sky and killed. Officially, the credit went to a Canadian pilot. But, as we're about to find out, the real story, well, it's a whole lot more complicated than that. Yeah, this is the image we all know, that blood-red triplane. It's an icon. So on that fateful morning, Richthofen climbed into the cockpit for what would be the very last time. And he was flying deep into enemy territory, the kind of place where the hunter can become the hunted in the blink of an eye.
Now, what's so wild about these final moments is the matchup. You've got Richthofen, the master, with 80 kills to his name, chasing a rookie Canadian pilot, a total novice. And in his pursuit, he does something he never does. He breaks one of his own cardinal rules: never fly low over enemy trenches. He got tunnel vision, completely fixated on his target, and that one moment of distraction, it turned out to be fatal. A single bullet, and it was all over.
So you have to ask, right? Why would a brilliant tactician, a guy who wrote the book on air combat, make such a basic rookie mistake? Well, to understand that, we have to peel back the layers of the legend and look at the man himself. Because before he was the Red Baron, he was just Manfred von Richthofen, a cavalry officer, in a war that was making horses obsolete.
Trench warfare pretty much ended the cavalry charge overnight. Richthofen found himself stuck as a dispatch runner, totally bored and far from the action he craved. And this quote, from his actual transfer request to join the air service, it just says it all. He wasn't there to sit around. He was there to fight.
And oh boy, did he fight. 80. Just look at that number. 80 officially confirmed aerial victories. That was more than any other pilot in the entire war, on any side. A number like that didn't just make him famous, it made him a living legend in Germany, the undisputed ace of aces. He was the best of the best.
But here's the thing that most people get wrong. He wasn't some reckless daredevil doing flashy stunts in the sky. Not at all. His success came from cold, calculated discipline. He was a student of another great ace, Oswald Bohlke, and he followed his rules religiously. Always attack from above with the sun at your back, and never, ever abandon your wingman.
So, with a reputation like his, it was only a matter of time before they gave him his own command. And this is where the legend really takes off. He was about to create one of the most famous and most feared fighting units in the history of aviation. And that famous red plane, this quote tells you everything about his tactical mind. Sure, it was intimidating, but it was also incredibly practical. In the absolute chaos of a dogfight, his pilots could just look for that splash of red and know exactly where their leader was. It was a beacon.
His elite unit, Jagdgeschwader I, quickly picked up a nickname, the Flying Circus. And the name was perfect for two reasons. First, their planes were all painted in these incredibly bright, flashy colors. And second, the whole unit was mobile, able to pack up and move to different hotspots on the front, just like a traveling circus rolling into town. All right, let's do a little myth-busting here. While that red Fokker triplane is the icon, he actually only scored 19 of his 80 kills in it. The plane where he really made his name, the one he flew for the majority of his victories, was actually the Albatros biplane. So by the middle of 1917, Richthofen seemed completely invincible. But his luck was about to run out. A single bullet was about to change everything. And maybe, just maybe, it set the stage for his death almost a year later. During a dogfight, a bullet literally grazed his skull. It was a severe head wound, one that required multiple surgeries. The doctors told him his flying days were over, but he went right back into combat anyway. The thing is, he was never the same man. He was plagued by constant headaches, nausea, and according to everyone around him, his whole personality had changed. This quote, which he wrote after his injury, is just chilling. It shows a man who was profoundly changed by his wound and by the war itself. The thrill was gone. Flying had become grim work, just a job.
The psychological toll was clearly immense. And this shift in his mindset might just be the key to understanding that final, fatal mistake.
Which brings us right back to that field in France. Now that we have the full picture, the head injury, the change in his personality, we can look at the evidence again and really try to figure it out. Who fired the shot that killed the Red Baron?
Okay, so you basically have two main theories. Theory 1, the official story, gives the credit to Canadian Captain Roy Brown, who was diving on Richthofen's tail. Theory 2 points the finger at Australian machine gunners on the ground. And the key piece of evidence that cracks the whole thing open, it's in the autopsy report.
So here it is, the smoking gun. The fatal bullet entered Richthofen's right side, right under his arm, and traveled diagonally up through his chest. Now that trajectory is completely impossible if he was being shot at from above and behind, where Captain Brown was. But it is a perfect match for a shot fired from the ground, as his plane banked low over the trenches. Today, the consensus among almost all historians and forensic experts is pretty clear. The Red Baron was almost certainly killed by an Australian machine gunner on the ground. While we'll never know for 100% certain, the person most often credited with firing that 1 in a million shot is a sergeant named Cedric Popkin.
But the story doesn't stop there. What happened after he was shot down is in some ways the most telling part of his entire legend. It's a powerful testament to the kind of respect he commanded, even from his enemies.
His famous triplane was immediately swarmed by Allied soldiers who stripped it for souvenirs. Everyone wanted a piece of the legend. But while the machine was torn apart, the man himself was treated with this profound, almost unbelievable level of honor. Get this, the Allied forces, the very men he was trying to shoot down, gave him a full military funeral with full honors. His pallbearers were fellow officers from the Australian Flying Corps. It was a sign of respect for an enemy that was pretty much unheard of in the middle of such a brutal war. And this just says it all. The inscription on a wreath left by an Allied squadron read, "To our gallant and worthy foe." Even in the middle of all that carnage, they recognized his skill, his bravery, and his honor. They saw him as a worthy opponent. And it leaves you wondering, what is it that really makes a legend last? Is it the incredible record, the 80 victories he piled up? Or is it the mystery and the tragedy of how it all came to an end? For the Red Baron, I think the answer is both. He was a brilliant, seemingly invincible hunter who was ultimately brought down by a single, fateful, and very human mistake.